You send a text. 3 little dots appear. Then they disappear. No reply comes. Your stomach drops like you just missed a step on the stairs. Your chest tightens. Some part of you starts replaying the message, wondering what you said wrong. It's just a text. But the real answer is far stranger. Your brain doesn't think it's just a text. Your brain thinks you might die. That sounds dramatic. It isn't. Somewhere deep in your skull, the part of your brain that processes rejection is the same part that processes a broken bone. Neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger discovered this by accident. She put people into an MRI scanner and had them play a simple ball-tossing game with 2 other players, except the game was rigged. Partway through, the other 2 players stopped throwing the ball to them. Just stopped. No explanation. On the screen, it looked harmless. Inside the scanner, it looked like an injury. The same brain region that lights up when your body feels physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex, lit up when people were excluded from a simple game. Not a metaphorical ache. Not a figure of speech. An actual pain signal in the same neural real estate your brain uses when you stub your toe or burn your hand. Why would a video game trigger the same alarm as a broken bone? Because for most of human history, being cut off from the group wasn't a bad feeling. It was a death sentence. Think about what your ancestors were working with. No supermarkets, no locks on doors, no emergency rooms. A human alone on the savannah, 50,000 years ago, was a human without a lookout for predators, without help finding water, without hands to carry an injured body back to shelter. The tribe wasn't a nice to have. It was the entire life support system. Exile meant exposure, starvation, or a lion. Rejection didn't just feel dangerous. It was dangerous, in the most literal, physical sense. So, evolution did something efficient. It didn't build a separate warning system for social threats. It repurposed the one that already existed. Physical pain already had your attention. It already made you stop, flinch, and change your behavior immediately. So your brain borrowed that circuitry and wired it straight into your social world. That's the twist most people never hear. Your broken heart and your broken arm are neurologically closer cousins than you'd ever guess. Psychologist Kipling Williams spent decades studying this exact phenomenon, a version of the ball-tossing experiment he called cyberball. Across dozens of studies, with thousands of participants, the pattern never changed. Being excluded from a meaningless digital game by strangers people would never meet still produced measurable distress. Even when participants were told the other players were computers, even when they were told the exclusion was random and meant nothing, the pain response fired anyway. Your brain, in other words, does not wait for context. It reacts first and asks questions later, which explains a lot about that unanswered text message, doesn't it? There's a name for the internal system that's constantly, quietly measuring how included you are. Psychologist Mark Leary called it the sociometer. Think of it like a fuel gauge, except instead of measuring gas, it's measuring belonging. It runs in the background all day, scanning tone of voice, eye contact, who got invited, who got left out of the group chat. When the needle drops, you feel it as anxiety, sadness, or that specific hollow feeling people call hurt. You don't choose to feel it. The gauge just reports what it detects. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because it means your reaction to rejection was never really a choice. You didn't decide to feel devastated when a friend didn't text back. Your ancestors' survival system decided for you, thousands of generations before you were born. So what do you do with an alarm system built for a world that no longer exists? Here's the modern mismatch. Your sociometer still treats every slight like a potential exile from the tribe. But your actual survival no longer depends on any one person's approval. You will not starve because a stranger didn't like your post. You will not be eaten by a predator because your group chat went quiet. And yet the gauge doesn't know that. It fires the same signal it fired when exile actually meant death. This explains why modern rejection can feel wildly disproportionate to the actual stakes. A missed reply from someone you barely know can ruin an entire afternoon. A single critical comment can outweigh 100 kind ones. Researchers call this negativity bias, and it exists for the same ancient reason. Missing a threat could get you killed. Missing a compliment never did. Your brain isn't broken when this happens. It's just running old software on new hardware. There's a strange comfort buried in that fact, if you let yourself sit with it. The wave of hurt after being excluded isn't a personal failing. It isn't proof that you're too sensitive or too needy. It's proof that you're a functioning human being with a nervous system that once kept your entire lineage alive. Every person who has ever felt gutted by silence, by a cancelled plan, by being left off a list, was feeling the exact same ancient alarm. Even the language gives it away. You don't say a joke stung. You say, rejection stings. You don't say someone broke your calendar. You say, someone broke your heart. The words survived because the sensation is real, encoded in the same tissue that processes a cut or a burn. So the next time 3 dots appear and disappear, and your stomach drops for no logical reason, you can name what's actually happening. That is not weakness. That is 50,000 years of survival wiring, doing exactly the job it was built to do, just aimed at a world that no longer requires it. You send a text. 3 little dots appear, then they disappear. And this time, you understand exactly why that silence hurts. Not because something is wrong with you, but because somewhere inside you, a very old, very loyal alarm is still standing guard, still trying to keep you alive inside a tribe that, for better or worse, doesn't work the way it used to.